Federalist 68, Part 2. At the end of the first part, I mentioned something that I should have done at the beginning of that part, and it's the fact that communication has changed so much that it's nothing like the founders could have imagined at any time. So when we go through all of the Federalists, I've mentioned it before, I've shown it on the map, how vast this country is, especially if you have to travel with a horse or on a wagon or whatever like that. No electronics, no electrical, nothing, no radio, no television, no telegraph even back then. So communication was different. So in this paper, when he talks about we want the electoral colleges of different states to convene separately and deliberate on who their choice would be for the president and the vice president, without the other states knowing what's going on. Look at how things have changed now because of the communication and also because of the evolution of the system. Let's start reading we stopped at paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll start with paragraph 5 now. Nothing was more to be desired than that every practicable obstacle should be opposed to cabal, intrigue, and corruption. These most deadly adversaries of Republican government might naturally have been expected to make their approaches from more than one quarter, but chiefly from the desire in foreign powers to gain an improper ascendant in our councils. How could they better gratify this than by raising a creature of their own to the chief magistracy of the Union? So he's talking about the system they have designed so that foreign governments, foreign powers won't corrupt it, won't be able to influence it. But the convention have guarded against all danger of this sort with the most provident and judicious attention. They have not made the appointment of the president to depend on any pre-existing bodies of men who might be tampered with beforehand to prostitute their votes. So see here, we don't have a pre-existing group of people sitting there this way. Foreign governments can't corrupt them, can't bribe them. They won't know who they are. But they have referred it in the first instance to an immediate act of the people of America to be exerted in the choice of persons for the temporary and sole purpose of making the appointment. And they have excluded from eligibility to this trust all those who from situation might be suspected of too great devotion to the president in office. No senator, representative, or other person holding a place of trust or profit under the United States can be of the number of the electors. So he's already saying we don't want anybody in this group of electors be a person that might be tempted later on by the president that is going to be elected to do something corrupt and bad. Okay, so senators, representatives, or anybody who is in public service for the U.S. cannot be part of these electors. Thus, without corrupting the body of the people, the immediate agents in the election will at least enter upon the task free from any sinister bias. This transient existence and their detached situation already taken notice of afforded a satisfactory prospect of their continuing so to the conclusion of it. The business of corruption, when it is to embrace so considerable a number of men, requires time as well as means. Nor would it be found easy suddenly to embark them, dispersed as they would be over 13 states, as widespread as they are all over this country, in any combination founded upon motives which, though they could not properly be denominated corrupt, might yet be of a nature to mislead them from their duty. Reading this paper is a little difficult right now with everything that's been going on in 2016, 2017. That's why I say try to focus on back then, what the system, how the communication took place, how hard it was to travel, how long it took, and like how long will it take to send a letter from one place to another. So keep those in mind. This paper, and actually the rest of these papers, will make more sense. You have to do that leap of imagination, otherwise it'll be difficult for you to get there. Another and no less important desideratum was that the executive should be independent for his continuance in office on all but the people themselves. He might otherwise be tempted to sacrifice his duty to his complaisance for those whose favor was necessary to the duration of his official consequence. And this is another thing, is that you don't want the president to know who the electors are, because the president or whoever is running for office might decide to bribe them, to corrupt them, and then tell them, hey, I'll owe you a favor while I'm in the office, I'll do whatever you want. This advantage will also be secured by making his re-election to depend on a special body of representatives, deputed by the society for the single purpose of making this important choice. As you kind of keep in mind as we go through this paper, when he says we don't want the president to corrupt this select body, the Electoral College members, they are writing in the context of what had happened in Britain. Because early 1700s was a lot of accusations, probably most likely happened, that the king and his court were trying to corrupt the parliament. And that was one of the issues that had happened. And those Whig writers that I told you that the founders liked a lot, Whig, W-H-I-G, not the hairpiece, but it's a short for Whigamore, party of the country, opposed to the city. But that was one of the things that had happened, and a lot of American intellectuals were following that. So when he says we don't want the president to corrupt that body, because they know it had happened in Britain. The court, the king, had corrupted, or was trying to corrupt the ministers. As these advantages will be happily combined in the plan devised by the convention, which is that the people of each state shall choose a number of persons as electors equal to the number of senators and representatives of such state in the national government. So if your state sends 5 members to the House of Representatives, and obviously 2 senators, because every state sends 2 senators to the Senate, so the number of electoral college votes you get is 5 plus 2, 7. California is the most populous state, so they get the highest number of electoral college. And then the smallest state, like Wyoming, they get they automatically, as the Constitution says, regardless of how small your state is, you're going to get one member to the House of Representatives and 2 senators. So they have 3 electoral college votes. And as you've noticed, a lot of these small states, or the states that is kind of guaranteed to go to one candidate of one party or the other candidate of the other party, they don't a lot of times get the candidates for the office of the president to go there and visit, because they say, well, we're going to win that anyways, the way the electoral college system is set up right now. It really doesn't have to be this way right now. It's the states that decide how to divide the electoral college votes, whether to give it all to the person who wins the popular vote in that state, or whether to divide it. But unfortunately right now, it seems like this is what the system we have right now is the way they've decided it. There's like 2 states that have set it up a little differently. State of Maine and Nebraska. So you can check into that. But let me see, I'll have enough time to finish this paragraph. Their votes thus given are to be transmitted to the seat of the national government, and the person who may happen to have a majority of the whole number of votes will be the president. But as a majority of the votes might not always happen to center on one man, and as it might be unsafe to permit less than a majority to be conclusive, it is provided that in such a contingency the House of Representatives shall elect out of the candidates who shall have the 5 highest number of votes the man who in their opinion may be best qualified for the office. So we'll just go through this again in the next part.